Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So yesterday I listened to Yvette Carnell's video and Tariq Nasheed's video where they're talking about this whole conflict between the so-called ADOS movement and foundational Black Americans. And what I want to do is just share my brief thoughts about this, and I want to hear from you. I want to know, what did you all think about this particular debate? First of all, as many people know, I don't support the ADOS movement. I've done plenty of videos on that subject. For more details, for those of you who aren't familiar with my position, I'll post links in the card so that you could check out those prior videos for yourself, where I go into great detail about why I don't support the ADOS movement. But I can just briefly summarize my position on it right now. First of all, I support Black people having our own identity in this country. Obviously, I support that. I support reparations. I have been on record supporting reparations before anybody ever heard of ADOS. I've written articles about it. I have done videos about it well before ADOS. My problem with the ADOS movement is its anti-immigrant rhetoric. My problem with the ADOS movement is its scapegoating of Black immigrants. Another problem that I have with the ADOS movement is its attack on Democrats while it gives Republicans a pass for the most part. Another issue that I have with the movement is that one of its founders, Yvette Carnell, is on the board of a right-wing organization, Progressives for Immigration Reform, which is nothing but a group created by a white supremacist by the name of John Tanton. So those are some of my issues with the movement. Again, for more detail, please check out some of my prior videos. Another issue that I have real quick with the movement is its divisiveness. It has divided Black people. It has attacked the idea of Pan-Africanism. So anyway, for more detail about my position, check out my prior videos. So what I want to do is go through some of the key points that were raised in these two videos and just share my thoughts. First of all, this whole debate has really nothing to do with principle or, strong ideological differences. For the most part, this whole debate has basically been initiated because you have Tariq Nasheed basically trying to rebrand ADOS into foundational Black Americans and trying to monetize it, as Yvette Carnell pointed out. I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with principle or real beliefs and all that kind of stuff. For the most part, this is about a man trying to rebrand the ADOS movement so that he can make money off of it. Having a conference is not about actually putting forth any kind of real, quote unquote, tangible agenda for Black people. It's about making money off of it. That's what it's about at the end of the day. It's about somebody trying to rebrand stuff so they can sell, products and all that kind of stuff and make money off of it. We know Tariq Nasheed is a race hustler. He is a race pimp at the end of the day. And I could go into much more detail about that, but I won't right now. I'm just going to talk about the core issues. So one of the issues that kept coming up is this issue about who got ADOS popping. So Tariq Nasheed basically said, well, ADOS would be unknown if it wasn't for me putting out tweets supporting it or doing videos in support of it. And Yvette Carnell correctly points out that ADOS was already on the map before Tariq Nasheed began to co-sign it. She cited a couple of very important articles in major news outlets, basically proving that ADOS was on the map before Tariq Nasheed. Now, so he is not the one that helped put it on the map, but I will say this: he did help popularize it. He did help spread its message. And that's without a doubt. Like, even Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore cannot deny that this man helped to make it even more popular. So he is not the one that got it on the map, but he is one of the key people that helped make it really popular. As people know, this man has a large audience, and so a lot of people gravitate towards him. They support a lot of his projects. etc. So he did help popularize it, but he's not the one that like first got it on the map or anything like that, or first got it in major news outlets and all that kind of stuff. Now, the other issue that I want to deal with is this whole debate that they were having about voting down ballot Democrats versus, this dope vote campaign. And when I look at that whole position, obviously I strongly oppose Tariq Nasheed's Don't Vote campaign. I think it is idiotic. I think it is political suicide. If we are not at the table, then we're on the menu. And these people that say we should not vote, they're not offering anything to black people. Sitting out an election does not help the black community. All it does is empower our enemies to make all the political decisions. That's what it does. It results in a situation where you have a Donald Trump elected president, somebody that's appointing Supreme Court justices and lower federal court judges that are making decisions that impact our lives. It means that you have a right-wing person promoting their agenda at the expense of black people. Sitting out an election is not an option. Again, it's political suicide. And that's what this guy, Tariq Nasheed, was promoting with his idiotic Don't Vote campaign. By not voting, you are not forcing anybody to negotiate with you over an agenda. All you are doing is rendering yourself irrelevant to the politicians. You are reneging on your responsibility as a citizen to be engaged and to be concerned about the plight of your community. All kinds of decisions are affected by voting, like how resources are allocated, is affected by voting. What kind of judges you have, what kind of chief of police you have, what kind of policing policies you have, the quality of your education, healthcare issues, all these important issues, even basic things like the condition of your roads and streets and, trash cleanup, all these things are governed by elected officials. Your civil rights are determined by elected officials who pass laws in Congress, who pass laws in your state legislature, who pass laws in your city government. So to me, it is idiotic to support any kind of Don't Vote campaign because basically you are rendering yourself irrelevant. When you don't vote, you don't count, period. And, as for this voting down, Democrats voting for Democrats down ballot, I understand their position. I understand why they take that position. But I think that, many of the same things apply. I mean, it is better to vote for, some candidates than not to vote for any candidates, as suggested by this ridiculous Don't Vote campaign. It's better to vote for some as opposed to none. But not voting for president doesn't empower the black community. It doesn't get us towards reparations. All it does is help you elect or re-elect Donald Trump, a man who's already said that he doesn't basically support reparations. He doesn't see it ever happening. So why would you put him in a position to be re-elected if you really support reparations? So that's one thing, man. I could go on about that, but I won't because I'm limited on time. The other thing that I want to address is this whole issue of lineage versus ADOS as a political organization or political ideology. The ADOS movement has never been just about lineage. Anybody who has listened to their videos, who's familiar with Antonio Moore and Yvette Carnell, know that it's never been just about somebody's nationality or anything like that. It's about an agenda. It's about dealing with the question of reparations. It's about dealing with the vast wealth inequality in this country. So it's never been just about some cultural identity or, somebody's nationality or anything like that. It's about, these wealth disparities. It's about, seeking reparations and all that kind of stuff. So the mere fact that this guy would say, Tariq Nasheed would say that he thought it was just some lineage tells you that he may not even been familiar with the very movement that he claimed to have got popping. And also, this whole thing of culture versus politics has to be addressed as well. Because, that's one thing that Tariq Nasheed was talking about, like how he's emphasizing culture and he's not all in with the politics thing. And, I just think that that's absurd. First of all, you were not going to get reparations unless you engage politics. Reparations is something that would require federal legislation in order to become a reality. These quote unquote tangibles that folks are talking about are acquired through a political process. So, someone emphasizing culture over politics is somebody that doesn't truly get it, somebody that doesn't understand how change is actually affected. And this is no surprise, again, coming from a man who actually encouraged black people not to vote. Another issue that I want to address real quick is this question of leadership and organization versus leaderless movements. First of all, Tariq Nasheed always tells people he's not a leader. He tells people he doesn't want to be out front and all that kind of stuff. When the fact of the matter is he's an opinion leader. A lot of people look to him for guidance. A lot of people look to his political content, and they actually move out based on certain things that he says, like when he tells people don't vote and stuff like that. A lot of misguided, uninformed people ride that bandwagon. So he is encouraging people to take action. So he is, in fact, a leader, whether he wants to be or not. As Yvette Carnell said, when people take that position that they're not a leader, essentially they're saying don't hold me accountable for anything. See, when you disclaim leadership, nobody can hold you accountable. Nobody can demand that you produce tangibles or produce actual results or anything like that when you claim that you're not a leader. When the fact of the matter is, anybody that has, over 100,000 subscribers, you are a leader in your own right. Anytime you got major outlets coming to you to get your opinion, news outlets coming to you for your opinion, and you're quoted in all these different news sources, you are a leader whether you want to be one or not. So the other thing is this, like with respect to this organization versus leaderless movements and stuff like that, you cannot be effective without any kind of structure, without any kind of discipline and organization. You can't effectively create change where anybody can be the leader and there is no structure and all that kind of stuff. When you have something like that, all you have is chaos. All you have is a situation where anybody is a spokesperson and all that kind of stuff, and you have confusion. You don't have effective action, effective mobilization for change. You can't even create an effective political agenda to push members of Congress or members of your state legislature or your city government to adhere to if you don't have any kind of structure. You need structure in order to create change. All we have to do is look at successful movements like the civil rights movement and the women's movement and all that kind of stuff. They had structure, and that's how they were able to actually affect tangible change, as opposed to somebody just getting on YouTube spouting their opinion. That doesn't bring about change. Just talking about something alone doesn't bring about change. You need action to bring about change. And the only way that you have effective action is if you have structure. That's why you have militaries. A military has a command structure. That's why you have forms of government around the world. You need to have structure in order to carry out your will. And that's something that this guy, Tariq Nasheed, doesn't understand. And, another point that he kept bringing up is talking about like how, we need soldiers and this and that. Basically talking about, how people need to be soldiers in this fight for liberation or this fight against white supremacy. But at the same time that this guy is talking about the need for soldiers, He's talking about how he doesn't want to be put out front and he's afraid of being targeted. He's saying, well, if you create an organization, then you're creating something that's going to be targeted and, wiped out and all that kind of stuff. And I understand why he would have that concern if you look at the history of the COINTEL program and all that kind of stuff, how they destroyed black organizations. But cowering in the presence of that history is something that we should never do. That should never be an option, man. If you're a soldier, you should be brave and courageous and willing to sacrifice for your people. And that tells you what kind of person this guy is, man. He's about stacking up his paper. He's not about putting himself on the front line and being willing to sacrifice. This guy is running from responsibility, running from standing out front and being a bold, courageous leader, man. Can you imagine a king, Martin Luther King saying, well, I don't want to be out front, or Malcolm X saying, I don't want to be out front, or Marcus Garvey saying something like that? Those men were courageous, man. Or Harriet Tubman saying, oh, I don't want to be out front, I don't want to have my name out there like that. Those are the words of a coward, man. And we shouldn't be turning to no coward for leadership. At the end of the day, man, if we want to create change, we have to have structure. We have to have discipline. We have to have organization. And you can't just move forward or create any kind of change if everybody's doing their own thing. And that's the problem with a lot of us, man. We just want to do our own thing and get shine and attention and all that kind of stuff instead of actually doing the work that is necessary to bring about the change that we want to see or that we claim that we want to see. Another thing that I want to talk about is this whole issue of hypocrisy. I mean, this guy, Tariq Nasheed, is always talking about being on code about this, being on code about that, when this dude is never on code, man. I mean, how is he talking about people need to be on code when he's always attacking other black people, man? This week is Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. The other day it was, him and Michi X. Then you had the Umar Johnson situation. Man, it's always somebody that this guy is beefing with, but yet and still he's trying to lecture us about the need to be on code. And to me, that's silly. And I've already told you my position about being quote unquote on code. I don't believe that we should be silenced in the to create some kind of fake appearance of black unity. And I could go into more detail, but I'm limited on time. I got to get ready for work. The other thing that I want to talk about is this whole issue of shine versus commitment. Like this guy kept saying, well, Antonio Moore is not used to shine and blah, blah, blah. And, and all that kind of stuff, basically saying that he was like getting gassed up, because the media is mentioning his name and all that kind of stuff. And, I think that Yvette Carnell was on point when she said that that this guy, Tariq Nasheed, was projecting with those comments, man. Because, it should never be about shine. But for a lot of these personalities that we see on YouTube and period, a lot of these personalities, they want attention brought to their name. They want fame and all that kind of stuff. They want media coverage and stuff. I mean, because how else can you explain this guy, Tariq Nasheed, being so eager to appear on right-wing Fox programs and such? How else can you explain that? Like, why would you, talk all this stuff about opposing white supremacy, but yet and still you get on a program, hosted by white supremacists, but you're so strong in your fight against white supremacy, man. The cameras mean everything to this man, because otherwise you wouldn't be getting on Fox News supporting a program that's attacking your people. Even though like he was on there to express his views or whatever, the fact of the matter is by going on Fox, you are drawing black people to Fox to watch Fox and to support Fox. whether you want to say it's indirect or direct. Yeah, so it should never be about somebody trying to get attention. Man, it's always about the people. That's what it should be about, man. Malcolm X wasn't in the struggle so that he could be on camera. Martin Luther King wasn't in the struggle so he could get his photos taken by newspapers and get interviews on the media and all that kind of stuff. Marcus Garvey wasn't in it for that. All these leaders weren't in it for that. They were in it because they had an undying love for the people, and that's what real leadership looks like. And the last point that I want to address real quick is this whole issue of like whether or not this guy Tariq Nasheed was insulting that guy Antonio Moore. He kept saying, "Well, I'm not insulting him. I'm just speaking real or whatever. I'm just being direct or whatever." And I'm not insulting. He was basically saying he's not insulting Yvette Carnell and all that kind of stuff. When in fact, obviously he was. Like he was saying this guy is not charismatic and all that kind of stuff. And to me, it's like, why even mention that? Like, how is that relevant to a debate of the actual issues, man? How is talking about ADOS being he described ADOS as a cult. And that's an insult, obviously. I mean, he said it's, you know, very similar to a cult or like a cult or something like that. I mean, that's an insult. So, I mean, there's no debate. It's clear that this guy was insulting Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore. Of course, he didn't go as far as he usually does with his insults and all that kind of stuff. He didn't attack them the way he does, like, for instance, with a Tommy or Umar Johnson. But he did insult them to some degree, and he was disrespectful to some degree, despite saying, well, I don't want to be disrespectful. And that just brings me to another point. Like, this is something Yvette Carnell talked about, like how basically, somebody that's in their 40s and stuff like that shouldn't be running around talking about how they gonna roast somebody, especially like if you're in an arena where you're talking about serious issues like racism, white supremacy, police brutality, and you claim to be sincere. The last thing you should be thinking about is quote unquote roasting people and stuff like that. I mean, if you were to be taken seriously, the last thing you should be doing is constantly insulting people and engaging in juvenile, quote unquote, roasting and stuff like that, man. I mean, so I think that she raises a valid point on that issue. I mean, the last thing you should find yourself doing is playing with damn puppets trying to insult people. I mean, if you were to be taken seriously as some thought leader in the community. So anyway, man, those are my quick thoughts about this. I wish I had more time, but tell me what y'all think. Please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content over here. So with that, peace and blessings. Have a great day.